Well, good day, everybody. It's Darcy D here, your virtual voice coach. Welcome to the first of hopefully many singers in the round the world. So today's format's a little different. I don't have a topic prepared per se, but I have some points that perhaps we could cover, and some things that we can walk through. And of course, I'd love to get through any of your questions or comments. So we can start by, for those of you that are live with me, drop something in the chat, and the topic we can cover from there. I've got a few stories to share with you today. Some anecdotal things that have happened to me recently that have reminded me how we live. We'll reflect how we sing, because our body is our instrument, etc., etc., etc. But we do have, I know Chad from Florida is with us online. He says hello and good day. Chad is one of the users of the app that's sort of been with me from the very beginning. And he takes full advantage of everything that is offered with Virtual Voice Coach. As many of you may know, or you've discovered through the welcome module in the app, I've been a singer most of my life, and I've done some pretty cool things around the world, both as a performer, a recording artist, tour manager, and then I started studying voice, became a voice coach, and started teaching. I had a bricks and sticks studio where I live here in Canada. And right up until COVID was a very thriving business, primarily teaching one-on-one with singers, developing voices and artists, and recording and all kinds of things. COVID comes, and after the first year, I'm forced to shut down my studio. Everything was forced to go online. And at that time, the technology was, Skype and Zoom wasn't as great as it is now. But it didn't take very long for these organizations to develop their technology. And so when my business went from in-person to everything online, very rapidly it changed. And the tools that I use to teach now are almost limitless, aside from the syncing of working with people online. So what happened was, while I was working with people online, they're accustomed to me playing the piano while they sing, and this was no longer really something I could use because of the time delay in the presentation. So in and of that, I decided to build an app. And I just want to say that teaching voice for me is rather easy, in the sense that I understand what a singer is because I am a singer, how to perform because I am a performer, and then learning to teach. I studied with coaches from around the world to learn the pedagogy, the methods, the processes that work with all voice types, all genres, all levels. So when you build an app and you try to develop a method of teaching this way, where you're on your own with an app and you're learning to utilize certain ideas, methods, etc., it can be a little bit difficult, because every single voice is uniquely individual, unlike, say, the piano or a guitar, where I play a note, ping, you play the same note, ping, sounds exactly the same. The way the voice creates sound and resonates is completely different, and it's based on the size and shape of your body and all these other factors. So so the way I'm coming at this now, I have the method, I have the pedagogy, I have a way for you to discover what your voice is and how it works, what voice type you are, where you can go to the correct exercises, and keep evolving your personal journey as a voice user from there. Now, the thing that I've added is this: webinars, private consultations, private teaching, which many of you have taken advantage of, And as we know, this becomes the catalyst that ignites your abilities and sets them on fire, so you're able to do the things that you thought you'd never, ever be able to do. And I know that a lot of you that I work with, the Keeners, Chad, you get it. You've been doing this. It's working for you. And so today I wanted to share a story or two about something that's happened to me just recently. So for those of you that I work with regularly online, you would know that, just over a week ago, I was feeling run down. There was a bit of a heat wave going on here in Western Canada, and it was hot, and I was working on the roof of my bus where I was resealing it, and it takes 2 or 3 days, several hours up there cleaning and removing old caulking and then replacing. So I spent time out in the sun. I love the sun. I'm a summer person. And what happened was, after the third day, I started to feel very run down. And I thought, what have I got? So I opened up my Google and I throw in my symptoms. Oh, I've got heat exhaustion, which a lot of the symptoms were very similar. So I spent the next week or so, or just under a week, either sleeping or teaching. I was exhausted. I had a fever. I was doing things that just made me feel very ill, but I wasn't getting any better. And the rest and the drinking water and taking Tylenol wasn't really helping. Till eventually I said, okay, this must be different. So what did I do? I went to a doctor and I got professional help, and within a 20-minute visit discovered that Darcy had an infection in his body that needed to be dealt with. So I'm day 4 into a week-long prescription, and guess what? I feel great. I no longer have a fever. My body's being cleaned out. I took the right prescription and I turned it into the remedy. And when I went online again, guess what? A lot of the symptoms of what I was diagnosed with, for real, were similar. Now, the point I'm going to try to make here as it pertains to the voice, with the internet now, there are so many ways you can be fed online. And there are so many ways within that buffet that you can be misled online. The thing about the voice is you may find someone online who can sing very, very well, and they're going to demonstrate some exercises, a prescription of exercises in the form of a remedy that worked for them. However, because each voice is so individual and unique, perhaps their prescription won't work for you straight away. Perhaps you need a slightly different prescription in order to build and balance your voice from where you're at, where you're starting, what your experience is, and your skill set. So if this makes sense to you, what I'm trying to say is, like within the Virtual Voice Coach app, we have 4 voice tens tos. These tens tos are universal. No chest voice, pulled chest voice, flipped voice, and blended voice. We are all in line or en route to become blended voice singers. When you first diagnose your voice, it could be that you have no chest, or you're a flipper, or what have you. And what really happens is you may find that you have to use a certain set of exercises to start to build, balance, and release your original tens to. And then over time, you might change that till eventually you're using pretty much all the exercises to build, balance, and strengthen your voice throughout the working part of your register, etc., etc. So it's always good to look at things from a perspective that says, okay, I'm starting to understand that this is something that I have to look at, where I'm at, what my goals are, but what I have to do to get there. At any rate, I'm going to dive into a whole bunch of different topics today. I just see we have a couple of questions. And one of them is formant and vowel shaping. the space between vowels, like what we would do with our formants as we are singing a phrase. So as we link vowel consonant combinations together. Very good question. And that's something that we can definitely get into. Vowels, of course, are very important, and it's one of the bread and butter topics of being a singer and becoming a great singer, because once your breath and vocal cord function is balanced, you make a nice noise. That is part of the singing or noise making process of a human being. And then typically it's how we balance that noise and filter it through the vowel or formant shaping. So a formant is the size and shape of an acoustical space. This room I'm in, my little studio, has a space, and it's insulated. It's got soundproofing panels, and so it's limiting reverb or echo, and it's creating a formant, if you will, conducive to me making these recordings and demonstrating how the voice works. So singers are basically something called source-filter interaction. Source is where the sound comes from, meaning breath and vocal cords come together. We get this vibration, we get a sound. Based on the size and shape of our body, those sound waves are going to vibrate or oscillate at certain frequencies, hertz, pitches. Once that sound is created, it comes through the vocal tract. So the beginning of the vocal tract is the vocal folds, and the end of the vocal tract is your lips. So as these sound waves bounce all around in your vocal tract, they will eventually come out, and it's how you shape your mouth, your tongue, your teeth, your lips, your jaw, your throat. All of these play a factor in the shape of the sound being produced. So you can change, augment, support that sound, filter that sound, and then what happens is we get to exercise. And in exercise, sure, we're doing let's go to the piano. In exercise, where typically while we're exercising, we know what our voice type is. So if you're a tenor or an alto, this is your transition. This is where you're sharing chest and head voice muscles. You're leaving chest voice and ascending into head voice dominance, or you're descending from head voice into chest voice. So this is the challenge area for every singer. When you know where your transition is, great. The reason you need to know this is because when you're going through vowel consonant combinations, this is the area, and for me, I'm a tenor. If you're a female version of a tenor, you're an alto. This is where the challenges will arise. So here's the vowels. So now we were talking about how the vowels will show their strengths and weaknesses in the transition. That's why it's important to know where your transition is, so you know where the problems may arise. Eventually, you want all 10 of these vowels to be challenge-less. So, and this chart, as many of you know, and for those of you who may be watching this for the first time, E and U are very narrow vowels. What that means is the way we shape them, woo, wee, it's a small, narrow shape, and by that very shape, it drives the tone of the sound to head voice quite easily. So we can take a goo, 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 goo. We can easily walk that up into head voice, right? Whereas when we come down, ah is the widest shape we can make, ah and ah. And ah, by its very nature, lives in chest voice. So if I wanted to go ga, 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 it's going to probably start to pull if I'm not balanced, right? So it's important that you understand which vowels are giving you grief. So when you exercise and you're focusing on one or two vowels, like in a diphthong, You're going to make sure that the for example, doesn't pull anymore. So you're going to look for the remedies in the way of exercise prescriptions to assist you with removing pull. So then it would be like ga 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 ga. So being very wide, I'm probably going to take it to the next narrowest vowel, like Beck. So I would sing ga 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 ga. So I'm singing through lips. And you could hear the difference. It's a lot easier for me to navigate this long scale through my transition, right? Getting back to the original question, when we're reshaping the vowels, we now have to look at how they come together. So, you could pick just about any song on the planet to get the demonstration for this. But when you think about, I'm just trying to think of a song that I could use as an example quickly here. Okay, let's pick Adele's Never Mind, I'll Find Someone Like You, right? So when she's singing, never mind, I'll find someone like you, that like you can become squeezy. So it's I, ooh. So if we go back to this, we're looking at never mind, I'll find someone la. Here's the I, ooh. So it's going from wide to narrow. So if I change the way I pronounce that, la, Q, which when said doesn't even sound like you. So in like, we finish with a K, which is going to close off the shape or the formant, thereby changing the resonant value, making it more difficult to sustain into you. So if I sing la Q, never mind, I'll find someone like you. You see how that becomes a lot easier now. So quite often how we speak, when we're taught to speak, we're taught to pronounce all the vowels and the consonants. But in our language in North America, we skew all the vowels and consonants anyways. Jeet, Jwanta, and somehow that can be even worse. So as a singer, the way you look at putting your vowels and your consonants together is going to be even slightly different. And it's going to be slightly different for each and every singer. So I hope that makes sense. That's why when I am working on a song with a singer, we go through every line and I get you to say all the words so that each line or each word in the line becomes one word. And it's just a slurry of vowel consonant combinations for which we find the path of least resistance. Then we breathe through it. Then we exercise through it. Then we start adding the vowel consonants of the actual words, learning which ones we have to skew slightly so that the path between them, as the question was, the path between them is of least resistance. That's pretty much like almost a primary way of getting into and through song. And sometimes these slight differences in how we pronounce, how we shape the sound, makes a huge difference in how it actually sounds. Your voice and the areas that you have control over, your position of your tongue, the placement of your jaw, the size and shape of your teeth, your mouth in general, how you're able to open up and how you're able to, make it smaller without squeezing it off. And I was just refreshing a while back on an article by Dr. Ingo Tsitse, vocal scientist, who was talking about, the belt zone, for example, and guess what? In the belt zone, we all know that in the belt zone, it's in the transition. So to for singers, finding the right belt placement for your voice type is going to mean it's usually going to be in your transition or your upper transition, leaning towards slightly head voice dominant. And in this area, this is where sometimes you'll notice when a singer is making the big belt sound, their mouth is quite large. And what this placement does is puts the formant or the vowel shape in the right place to trigger all the harmonics associated with the fundamental frequency you're singing, so you can boost that signal easier and with less effort, right? So quite often, for singers, especially rock singers, musical theater sometimes, we're going to belt this thing out, and I'm going to hit this thing as hard as I can because I want to get this note out and I want it to be big. And more often than not, and straight away, that's the wrong approach. That's going to cause things to happen that it's going to lock things up. There's going to be too much to the vocal cords at once, for example. The vocal cords are then either going to have to squeeze or they're going to be blown apart. The formant itself is going to be out of tune, so to speak, so we can't get the resonant frequencies to just be there. And it's sometimes, if I demonstrate, it's again early for me here in Western Canada. I'm not warmed up, just getting over an illness. Listen to the excuses, folks. If I wanted to sing a wider vowel right here, ah, and I wanted to belt this out, ah, so I haven't changed anything. I'm saying ah, and then just trying to turn that up, so to speak. I'm going to hit it hard. Hit, as you all may know, is a word that I despise in voice. Hit implies force. The word itself implies force, and force is always what we don't want in the voice. I like to say get to. So when I want to go to a bigger sound, when I want to go to a higher, smaller note, I want to make sure every one of my concentrations is set up to amplify the sound. So if I look at ah, pretty wide vowel ah, what if I just dropped my jaw? Ah, much easier. But for those of you that want to stylize your sound and you're a rock singer, that's probably not going to accommodate you. So we have to use some of our other concentrations like laryngeal position, slightly higher, slightly lower. So ah, I ever so slightly thought about going slightly bratty and raising my larynx to give me that sound that I'm looking for. So then, ah, suddenly I'm belting in the theater, right? Suddenly I'm becoming more like a rock singer. What if I just wanted it to be smooth and open and more of a pure vowel? Ah, what did I do? I slightly lowered my larynx. I'm making it more open. I'm tuning that formant to activate, to actuate the right harmonics that are relative to that frequency I'm singing. I'm using my instrument to tune that shape, to tune the sound, to find the tone. And that's, simply put, how it's done. So for those of you just starting out, first it's a matter of, finding your way through your transition, building and balancing all your vowels, starting to put those vowels together in diphthongs, nay, mine, different sounds, finding a song to sing that works for your voice type, putting it in the right key and working through those placements. How does that sound? Woo! Okay, we have another one here. Yeah, that is the nugget. The belt zone is generally in the transition. And why is it so effective there? Because in the transition, you're utilizing the thyroarytenoid and the cricothyroid muscles, the TA and the CT, the chest voice and the head voice muscles. They're both now, it's not like when you're singing in chest voice, the head voice muscle goes and lies on the couch. It's just not active. It's not as active. And the higher you go in pitch, the more that head voice muscle is going to want to play, because what happens is the vocal cords stretch and they converge. They get seemingly smaller, and the higher you sing, the less vibrating mass of the vocal cord you're using, and the more natural tension we feel, which means that head voice muscle, the CT, cricothyroid, is now becoming more dominant. And you can't see it, you can only feel it by the triggers that we teach, so you understand where you are in your voice. So when you get into the belt zone, you're typically in mix. And in mixed voice, you have the power of all your muscle groups. So there's about 5 different muscle groups in the voice. There's cartilage, and there's tissue, and there's gelatin mass, and there's a lot going on in these little tiny vocal folds that we make these tremendously huge sounds with. And not only is the transition the belt zone, the transition is the flip place. It's where if you wanted to flip in a song, in you're writing this song, the transition is going to be the place where that will happen naturally, right? So if you're doing a Nick Jonas, Justin Timberlake, Adam Levine type sound, and you want to go into falsetto in a certain area, it's probably going to be in your mix or at the top of your mix where this will feel the most comfortable, because naturally, without thinking about it, Okay, so today I'm actually flipping. I think I should show you this. I'm actually flipping here at D flat. And it's very natural for me. Keep in mind, I'm just coming off of an ailment, on the medication, on the up and up. Haven't really been using my voice personally as much as I normally do, and that's where it is. But right, so that's the place. And so learning to know your places. Where's the mix? Where's my belt zone? Where can I flip nicely? How can I balance this? Right? Does that make sense? Is this making sense? Chad says I shout. It sucks. Well, the thing is that, I'm a shouter. What does that mean? Like, to shout is to raise your voice, right? As a human, we do this naturally. Hey, get away from that. Hey, get away from that. Like, it's natural. And we don't think about it, and everyone can do it. Most everyone can do it. The challenge, I think, as a singer is it's not, because when you sing, it's sustained speech that has to be a little bit louder. It's like shouting comfortably in tune. And the operative words are in tune. So as singers, the pitch must be correct. And this is why in other webinars I've talked about, making sure to exercise to a piano, to the app, so that your pitch is being placed correctly, is being memorized correctly. You're in tune to a piano, so that when you go to song, you know these notes in tune. And I was working with a singer just last week, and there was a song that they were wanting to learn, and I can't remember the artist. It was an older artist. Not the point. The truth is, the song was in tune. The song itself, when you played it, was in tune. But when I was finding the notes on the piano with the song, they were slightly out of tune. It sounded like my piano was out of tune because it was somewhere in between sharp and flat. And what it means is this song was recorded, the late 70s. And technology, of course, back then was you had to use some kind of tuning device to tune all the instruments to the same pitch, A440. And back then, sometimes in the studio, you're jamming along, they're recording, they're writing, and they have this great idea, and they suddenly want to capture it on tape back then. So they would, the guitar player would say to the other guitar player, give me an A, bang, bang, bang. They tune up, and the whole band tunes, and they're in tune, but they weren't in tune to A440. So this singer that I was working with was working on this song that was in tune standalone by itself, but in tune, not in tune with the rest of the world, A440, the way we tune the piano. A440 is A4, 440 hertz. That's how many times it oscillates per second. So again, it's very important that when we are building and balancing our voices, we are in tune to a piano. So the muscle memory we create will lend itself very useful in song later. We have another question. Our volume as singers. How loud are we actually singing? If we were to measure singers' loudness in decibels, how does that vary when they are singing different styles? Well, this is a really good question as well, because the volume of a singer a lot of the times is dependent on the emotional value of the lyrical content. And I have a story I could share. A few years ago, I was down in I was in the mountains in California. I think it was like Big Bear or something. I was at a voice conference where teachers gathered to learn about teaching and about artistry, and we had some special guests. There was the Goo Goo Dolls were there. Natasha Bedingfield was there, and I've always admired Natasha Bedingfield's version of The Scientist, and I got to meet her, and very lovely woman, very amazing singer, and she works with a voice coach that I've trained with, I've learned from for years. I told her how much I liked the Scientist, and she said, "Oh yeah, maybe we should do that one today." And she had just a guitar player accompanying her, and we were in this little, it was like a little mini theater. There was a little stage with some steps that went up in the round, and we all just sat. You could hear her acoustically, sometimes over the microphone, because it wasn't that loud. Acoustic guitar and her voice. And then she did The Scientist. And if you've ever heard this song and you've seen her sing it, say on YouTube live, you know, on a big stage in the band, and you watch her face and you hear the sounds coming out of her instrument, you think, wow, she's really, really belting this out. And the one thing that struck me is after hearing her sing this live in the round acoustically, the same facial expressions, the same amazing sound was very quiet. So, in other words, it's how she was shaping her formants and how she approached her vocal cord closure and how she came at it that gave the sound that wasn't squeezed, and it wasn't like it wasn't what I thought it would have been. And my background is rock and roll. I'm a rock singer first and foremost. So for me, and especially when I was singing back in the day, the technology wasn't such that we knew all these things about voice and voice production, and for me it was always I'm going to blow this thing up, I'm going to hit this note, and I'm going to squeeze this thing out. And a lot of the times I did get that sound, but at the sake of the next day going, what happened, right? And over the years and over many voice coaches, I've probably trained with close to 20 voice coaches. And up until the last 10 or 15 years, it's been the same coaches, and it's not so much even one-on-one anymore. It's we share the same pedagogy, we share the same ideas, we share the new technology, the new science, and I'm able to translate it with everything that I know. But back then, I had no idea what I was doing. So after Natasha sang this, and I even said to other voice coaches there, listen to how forced that isn't. And then I spoke to her coach afterwards, Dave Stroud, and he goes, yeah, that's how it's done. That's really how it's done. This is a trigger for the brain. It's emotional. This is not, I'm squeezing, right? So it's and that's why I don't know how many times I've been to conferences where there's a stylist there or a performance coach or two, and they always talk about, when you're singing a song, sure, you have to know what your voice limits are. You have to know what the confines of your working register are so you can put the song in the right key. Once you put the song in the right key, then what do the lyrics mean? When you read the lyrics, what do they mean? And then what do the lyrics mean to you? And then you ask yourself, how do you look when you feel that way? Right? So this is where the vanity mirror comes into play. If I'm singing a very sad song, a very pensive song, I'm going to have that reflected on my face. And what this tells my brain is that, okay, we're going to tell this story this way. And if I'm mad and pissed off and I need to get a point across, I'm going to have a different look on my face. And it might share some of this sadness or pensiveness. Anger shares a little bit of this as well. It might be a little bit more of a furrowed brow. It might be a little, but the point is, once you can identify with the emotional value, the brain will assist all the functionality of the voice to get that message out. And if you've ever watched someone screaming at you that's mad, their face is usually not like this, right? Unless they're very passive aggressive and they're letting you have it, getting under your skin. If you get the point, sometimes when I'm working with a singer and when we're trying to relieve strain, if we're trying to relieve strain and I see their brow is furrowed, I'll tell them, remove that tension. Put your finger here and go, okay, there's tension. Then get rid of it. Just relax, right? Breathe, sing through it. Now, when we're trying to put more weight on the voice, and by more weight, it usually means, not very much weight, about neutral, weight. We're putting weight on the voice. We're trying to get to the place where we can make a point, where we can be a little bit more aggressive with the sound. We're changing our countenance to let the brain know this is where we're going, right? So these are quite often very good tips for singers. And I always say this, especially with younger singers, females seem to develop emotionally quicker into their voices. They're able to identify with the meaning of the lyric and they're able to put that on. And quite often it's sad ballads or breakup songs. And guys, younger guys, are usually a little bit more angstful, and they've got stuff to prove, and that's why it's more ego driven or what have you, and that's why they identify with a certain sound. And then as we grow and we age and we refine, so do our tastes in music. Therefore, how we would use our voice, and now we're looking at ways to master all these different levels of emotional value and resistance in our voice. So we can learn to do things that we normally wouldn't do, and everything we do with our voice can be applied to every style and genre. Again, these slight changes in physicality, in approach, in the concentrations, the mastering of those concentrations, the balance of those concentrations, and the dedication we put into the prescriptive exercises of those sounds. So everything you do is going to contribute to who you become as a singer. And if you keep doing the same thing over and over, expecting the different result, it's like beating your head against the wall. But if you think about some of the songs that have, moved you the most, those that have maybe made you swallow hamburgers or drop a tear, those are from singers whose performances embody every aspect of it, emotionally and physically. And these singers relive that lyric every time they sing it because they believe it. And because they believe it, the intent gets across, and we as humans feel that, relate to that, and go, yes, I get it, right? And it could be that, some people, like if you're wanting to change your countenance and come out of depression, you're not going to listen to sad, slow songs. You're going to listen to songs that elevate your heart rate, that change your countenance so that you're pumping your fist in the air, you're working out, you're dancing, you're getting away from a certain emotion. So, music and your voice can lead emotional values to the listener. And that's why I've always said that as a band or as an entertainer, and you're doing cover songs, you should never suck, because there's a trillion songs out there that can lead your listener emotionally down a path that says, this is what we're doing today. We're having some fun. We're gonna raise the roof, or listen, I'm gonna bring it down. We're gonna dim the lights. You're gonna hear a pin drop. I'm gonna make you cry. And speaking of which, when I'm quite often I have to demonstrate for singers songs or performances of songs that have moved me to the point where you could watch the video with the sound off and still feel what that singer's going through. And one of the best versions of, let's say a sad emotional movement in a song is by Sugarland, a country duo, Sugarland, and I think it's Jennifer Nettles. And the song is called Stay. So I recommend looking up that song on YouTube and finding the video of that song. It's one of those, it's not a broken-hearted love song. It's about a relationship got sideways, and she goes into the song, and every time she comes to the chorus, it's very emotional. And the first time through, it's kind of, just sad. The second time through, now, I don't know if this is true, but I was told that as they were filming the video, her bottom lip starts to quiver in the second chorus. And I was told that the director said, just keep going with it, keep going with it. And so she's singing through this very emotional moment. And by the last chorus, she actually starts crying. And when I used to develop artists, and we would look, I want you to be able to emote, physically what your lyrics say are happening emotionally. I would demonstrate this song, and you can't get through it without, for me, I start to swallow the hamburger. It's like, this is quite emotional, and it really did move me. And I've used that song as an example time and time again. And it's a strong example of someone who believes in what they're saying. And obviously for her and her songwriting partner, this is something they had written. And the song is acoustic guitar and vocal. And it's so moving. It's amazing. I challenge you, Stay by Sugarland. Check it out. This is really what it comes down to, believing in what you're singing. And all the great singers, and again, it's easier when you've written the song. It's your story. It's what you're sharing. Something you've written, something that you believe in, something that's close to your heart. But as a cover singer, you should cover songs that you can believe in. You understand the message in the story. I don't know how many times I've worked with a singer and we're having a problem getting, or I'm having a problem getting them to feed. I don't believe them. They're singing these songs, the notes are good, but somehow I don't believe them. And then I'll ask them, what is this song about? And sometimes I get the blank stare. It's about love, like a question, and we have to go through each line in the lyric and go, okay, what does that mean? Oh, it means this. Oh, okay. Have you ever experienced that? No. So then how can you relate that story, right? When we're exercising our voices, and I get this a lot, all the exercises get boring after a while. Well, what that means is you're starting to place them. Yeah, and sure, you're just singing, vocables, gee, 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 mum, 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 doesn't make any sense. But what if what if you took the scale, I'll find a comfortable place for me, and we went, mum, 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 mum. Great, I'm getting the notes. Fantastic. Now, if I said to you, the singer, well, can you sing that a little bit more pensive? A little bit more, moody, like mum, 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 mum. What happens is they automatically will, get to a place where they open up a bit more, and it feels like it wants to slow down. Sad is slow, right? Mum, 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 mum. And you notice that the mum, mum, mum starts to go to more ma, 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 ma. Now it's a little more, right? It's got a little more emotion on it. Well, what if I sang it a little bit more excited? Mum, 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 mum. There might be a lifting of a smile. It's got a little, pep in the step of the notes, etc., etc. And what if I needed you to have the people in the next room hear you sing that scale? Mum, 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 right? So now there's going to be some projection. We might have to change the formant a little bit, the vowel shaping, but we're going to get it out. And one of the things that I say, and I touched on this a little bit earlier, is when you want to be a little bit more aggressive, when you want to make a point, when you want to be a little bit louder, when you want to sustain, you have to put a little bit of mad on your voice. We have all experienced mad. What does it sound like in your voice? Mum, 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 mum. Or maybe I'm just a little mad. Mum, 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 mum. I'm going to be very or more deliberate and intentional with the sounds that I'm making, right? So and guess what? Because I'm upping the game. This goes to something. I work with singers, and we're working on a really nice song. It's somewhat of a ballad perhaps, but it's sort of mid-tempo, and they're thinking about the style of the song. So by the time they get to the pre-chorus, chorus, they're going into the style, and their voice falls apart because they're losing the connection, because mentally they think they want to stylize. Whereas you should stay in, keep the connection, and realize that the singer you're emulating is using a microphone, and that they're not backing off. The compression might be backing it off. They might move away from the microphone a little bit, keep the presence, and give the illusion of getting softer, right? So they still have a little bit of mad on it. And by mad, it's not always aggressive. It's just staying in the connection, staying into the sustain, keeping the formant fed, the shape that you're singing through, source filter interaction, keeping that balance. So then a ma, ma, then you can learn to back off, right? Because if you go ma, it's gonna fall apart. That always comes back to anchoring. Anchor that first note. Don't let it get away on you. Ah. And then from there you can release, you can stylize, you can get to that place. Stylizing scales. How often, when is it appropriate to practice this way? Listen, stylizing scales, like if you're getting bored with the scale, say you're in the deep practice module in the app. And as you know, in the deep practice, we slow things right down so that we can find and keep every note. Okay, so now we start to speed that up, right? So, okay, great, I'm getting it. Now, we have what's called the triple 5-tone scale in the deep practice module. So that means we're repeating that scale 3 times. That means we're upping our breath flow game. Like we want to sustain equally, you want to deal the same amount to each note over the duration of that triple 5-tone scale. You want the volume to remain pretty much the same. But what if you started out connected on the first 5-tone, mum, 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 and on the second one, you up the ante, you put some mad on it, you change the volume, you're being slightly more aggressive. Now we're playing with emotion. Now we're playing with the dynamics of singing. Now, if we switch this to a sustained sound, it's going to make it the exercise that you got bored with even more challenging. So it'd be more like right? Now you're playing with perhaps more of a fluctuation in volume and in placement that would be more like singing an actual song. So now exercise can become like song, right? Then you can actually just go in and change the vowels. You could say me, may, me, may, me, may, me, may, me. You're using a monophthong and a diphthong. One sound, two vowel sounds. You're changing the shapes. You could start to put in the lyric of a song you're working on. You can do anything. You can sing the numbers. You can sing solfege, right? So there's so many different ways to practice yourself into better coordination. Practice yourself into bigger sound, more dynamic, right? So a little bit more compressed, a little less resisted. You can do all of these different things, and it'll come down to how well you practice and how dedicated you are to the prescription of the routine, right? What I'm going to do is challenge everyone that rewatches this and those of you that are here with me today to find places in your exercise that give you the most grief. What vowels are they? Where are they in the register? Where are you when you're doing the exercise and those notes show up? Let me know what they are. Reach out to me. Tell me your horror story. Tell me what is giving you grief, so that I can maybe address this within the app, because there's going to be others that feel the same way. You don't have to do this alone. There's others that feel the exact same way that you do about certain images that portray in your head, because it's all about your approach and it's based on what you've experienced. And until you've experienced balance and repeated it, you don't create the new habit. And again, if you're repeating the old habit, expecting the different results, you're going to drive yourself crazy. So use what works and repeat it till it becomes boredom, and then augment it and repeat that till it becomes boredom, right? So there's so many different things that you can do, and there's so many different things that you can repeat that are going to give you the balance and the positive habits in your voice that will work for you. If you've enjoyed what we've talked about today and you'd like to hear more, I encourage you to like, share, and subscribe, because it's appreciated and it's good for me. Thank you for sharing your day with me, or your afternoon or your evening, wherever you are on the planet. And I'll see you soon. Sing for yourself.